Good evening everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jeremy and this evening I'm going to teach you how to make a dessert. Now this pudding was created by my mother. Well, I think it was. I've never ever seen anyone else make it, and my mom just suddenly had this recipe that I don't know where it came from. So I'm going to call it Auntie Regia's strawberry and cream dessert. Let's go again. I'm going to call it Auntie Regia's strawberry and cream dessert. So let's get started right away. So I'm going to start by cutting up the sponge. Now, you don't have to use a sponge cake. You can just use a normal vanilla cake if you want to bake one yourself. But this is a store-bought one. My mother always used just a normal cake. So usually I buy a round one, and I usually use about 3/4 of a round one for a small dessert like this. So when I look at the size and the height of this, I'm guessing it's about the same size as a round one. So I'm going to go with a bit less than 3/4 just to start out with. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it up. And I'm going to drop it into the bowl. Okay, so it looks like 3/4 might be a bit much. So I'm leaving that much over. This is a 20 centimeter by 20 centimeter bowl. And I'll just keep this aside in case I need it later on. So I'm setting that aside and I'm going to start whipping my cream. Now this is not cream. This is called Orly Whip in South Africa. It says dessert topping for baking desserts and toppings with palm kernel oil, dairy free. I don't know what you'd call that in other countries, but it's a non-dairy substitute for cream. Real cream does not work for this recipe. So this is a 250 milliliter bottle, and I'm going to pour all of it into my mixing bowl. And I'm going to start whisking. Okay, so you want it to just start thickening like that. You don't want it to get completely thick. It must just start thickening slightly. And then we'll add 3/4 of a 385 gram can of sweetened condensed milk. I'm using full cream sweetened condensed milk, but it doesn't really make a difference. And I'm just going to whisk it some more. Okay, and that's it. You don't want it any thicker than this because you want it to be part of the cake. So if you thicken it too much, then it's going to be too dry. So I'm going to pour the cream mixture over the cake. And then I'm going to use either a knife or I'm using a spatula today, and I'm going to make the mixture go in between the cake. So I'm breaking the cake underneath so that the mixture and the cake sort of combine. And the mixture won't go into the cake automatically. It's not thin enough, so you need to break the cake. Now I can feel that I can add some more cake, so I'm going to take some of the cake I took out and I'm going to re-add it. And it really does feel, when you are doing this, that you are making an absolute mess. But if you don't do this well, then this entire pudding is going to be so dry. So it needs to feel like you are mashing the cake underneath. And you'll find there's a lot of extra cream on the sides. So try and take that away from the sides and move it to the middle, because it's inclined to be dry in the middle if you don't get enough of the cream into the middle. This is going to go into the fridge while I prepare the topping. Okay, so what I have here is I have a punnet of strawberries. That's 250 grams. And usually I will just cut the strawberries in half, but these are quite big ones. So I'm going to cut them into quarters and put them into a pot. I have washed them, and you can see I've taken out the stem. And to this, I'm going to add some water. I'm going to put my stove on first. And I don't know how much water because I've never checked. So let's try and figure it out. I'm using boiling water. That's half a cup. Okay, so I have a cup in there, and I'm going to bring that to the boil. So what I want to happen is I want the water to go red so that I create a sauce that can go on top of the pudding. Okay, so it started boiling. You don't want it to boil too long because the strawberries boil to nothing very quickly. So as soon as the water is a bit redder than that, I'm going to thicken it with some custard powder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a teaspoon of custard powder. I'm going to take a heaped teaspoon of custard powder. And I'm going to add a bit of cold water to that. Just a little bit so it can dissolve. If you do it with hot water, you'll get lumps. So be sure to use a little bit of cold water. This is probably about a tablespoon of cold water. And make sure there are no lumps. Okay, and you can see it's going red. The water has gone red. And as soon as that starts happening, you're going to remove it from the heat and add your custard. Once the custard is in, be sure to stir straight away and to put it back on the heat. And then you'll see your sauce start thickening. And that is enough boiling. So now I'm going to take it off the heat and leave it somewhere to get cold. If you are in a hurry, you could throw it into a glass bowl and you could put it into the freezer. I think I'll do that. And I'm just going to leave it until it is cold. Okay, so this is cold. It's about room temperature. It was in the fridge. And I'm just going to put that on top of there. So I'm going to start by putting the strawberries on. So you want to spread the strawberries evenly because you don't want people to say they didn't get any. And I try to have the strawberry seeds facing upwards if I can. Okay, then once you have all the strawberries on, you're going to try and cover all the white with this red jelly-like sauce. If your bowl is deep enough and you can get it all on, put it all on, but otherwise just keep on going until the bowl is full. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it back in the fridge. It doesn't have to set, it just needs to chill, and this top part will get a bit harder in the fridge. But it doesn't need to set because it's the cake that keeps the strawberries up, not the cream and condensed milk. So that'll go into the fridge until it's cold, and then we'll cut it and see what we have. So let's dish. It's cooled down completely, and let's see how it looks. You'll see when you dish this, it's not a beautiful pudding. But pudding is not meant to be beautiful. Pudding is meant to be good. So there's the strawberry pudding. I hope you enjoyed the recipe, and I hope you'll enjoy this pudding. My family certainly does. If you enjoyed the video, please like it. If you enjoyed my other videos, please subscribe to my channel, and then remember to press the notifications button. So I'll see you next week. I don't quite know what I'm going to make yet, but it's going to be something delicious. Have a good evening.